Let's do it.
Hi, how's it going? So yeah, I was a socialist in 8th grade, actually, until I got cognitive dissonance watching your Piers Morgan interview.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, I'm a senior now in high school, and I founded the YAF chapter. And
good for you. That's great.
So yeah, I mean, it would be great if we could get a photo for publicity. It'd be great for the city.
Yeah, like I say, we'll try and get some photos afterward.
But so yeah, when you're arguing with atheists, in the end of the argument of morality, there's almost always a concession that there's no objective right or wrong. As a Christian or a religious person, how can we prove that there's an objective morality without explicitly citing religion?
So there's two basic approaches to morality, both of which rely on an unmoved mover. One is the more secular Greek approach, and one is the Judeo-Christian approach. The Judeo-Christian approach is revelation, right? Either in the Judaic version, God came down on a mountaintop and informed people what was good and what was right and what was wrong, and what we should do and what we should not. And in the Christian version, Jesus came to earth and gave a moral code. So there's revelation, and then there's the Greek teleology, which essentially suggests that there's an unmoved mover that caused the universe to be the way that it is, and in the very nature of the universe itself, you can discover rules for living. So this is the difference between the Aristotelian good, for example, and what you would consider just moral good. So you might say that something happens and that's bad or that's good. What Aristotle would say is it's not that something happens and it's bad or good, it's fit or unfit, meaning that certain things are created for certain purposes. So, for example, what makes a shovel good is its capacity to dig, right? So a good shovel, the way he uses good is this way. A good shovel is a shovel that you can dig with. A good man is a man who can reason, right? Because what man is uniquely created to do is reason. What human beings, or people, as Justin Trudeau would say, are capable of doing is reasoning. And so the more you use your reason, that is what you were put on earth to do, and then you can derive a certain set of rules. People were meant to do justice based on the nature of who people are. People were meant to get married and have babies based on the nature of what sex is. Right? So you can derive some rules from that. Now, that was basically, I would say, torn apart by a lot of Enlightenment thinkers, ranging from David Hume to Voltaire to Spinoza. But I don't know that they sufficiently reject that argument, because then they go find a moral system on their own, or either they find an arbitrary moral system or they try to reconstruct a moral system based on premises that are not available in nature. Right? They try to set up universal principles like Kant tries to do, but that's a universal principle Kant came up with, so it's inherently subjective. So you either, if you want an objective morality, you either have to go to the nature of things and try to derive from the nature of things what you ought to do. You have to connect to is and ought in a way that David Hume would not like. Or you have to go to revelation and say, here is what God actually said to human beings and instruct them to do. Now, the good news is that the vast majority of things that the Greeks thought were good are also the same things that are thought good in Judeo-Christian systems of thought, which is what Aquinas says, what Maimonides says, it's what Augustine says, even though he was attempting to draw some distinctions. Christianity, historically speaking, was maybe the first attempt to actually meld the thought of Judaic thought with Greek thought, which is why the New Testament is written in Greek as opposed to being written in Aramaic or Hebrew, which was the parlance of the time. So all of that is a very long way and a historical way to say that no one has yet come up with a system of morality that is objectively verifiable and that actually gives us all the things we want outside of the history that I just gave to you. So this is what I said to Sam Harris. So Sam Harris comes to a lot of the same moral conclusions that I do, right? That we have individual rights, and that we as individual human beings shouldn't hurt each other, and that we have the right to free speech, and that we have the right to property. And what I said to him is there's an entire 3,000 year history to get us to those rights. Right, born out of Judeo-Christian and Greek thought, and you're just taking the cherry off the top and proclaiming that this is obvious to everyone. And clearly that's not the case, because for the vast majority of people on Earth for all of human time, that is not true. And this has been our main disagreement. And again, I think that it's very difficult for Sam or for atheists generally to get to a moral system that is not arbitrary. It may be a system that I agree with. They may have morality that I agree with, but it's hard for them to say this is objectively true on any level without some appeal to either the nature of things or some appeal to God himself.